warning at the start of the podcast. This week's episode, we discuss some things that other listeners may find quite distressing. Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of That's Mental Mate with me, Brad. I'm joined today by old colleague and friend James. We've known each other how long now? 2015, 16?
Yeah.
About 7 years?
Been quite some time.
Yeah, still sticking me, yeah.
Barely. No, it was quite a strange introduction. It was me moving to Belfast where I didn't know anybody, so coming across another
Derry
or London Derry, whatever you want to refer to it as. Coming across another one just made Belfast feel a bit like home, where you weren't like a
alien, culture.
Yeah, everybody's a culture from Belfast, so it was nice just to have that familiar sounding tone.
Yeah.
And it just became easy to talk to you about stuff, so.
And that's why we're here today, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we start every episode asking, how are you? How are you feeling?
So I've got a lot better. The start of this year, it was rough. It was probably me at the darkest point, but I was in a very lucky situation where the job I work in, the hospital, they were able to get me in touch with occupational health, and occupational health got me in the CBT, which is
cognitive behavioural therapy.
Yeah, so I've had a few different therapies and stuff, and I found that one has been something which it's given me set tools that I can sort of realise now whenever I'm going down certain paths, and it's just set me up where I'm. For example, the last session I had, she says whenever I came into the room, the first time I came into the room, she says I was like a beat puppy. She said that I looked like just sitting in the corner, arms crossed, tail between my legs. So one of her last sessions, she's all came in, sitting down, I was more open, leaning forward. So it's nice that other people are also seeing that change. So there's been a good tilt. You still have your bad days, still have your down days, but it's about not letting them control taking over the week. So we're getting there. That's the term I like to use.
Yeah. Well, whenever I had the idea of this podcast, you were kind of one of the first people I thought of, because I hope you don't mind me saying, but I think we just have chats like this all the time, and you're not really afraid to come out and say anything. Like, I've seen you at parties and you're just introduced to someone right away and you're not afraid to hide away and just say, oh yeah, no, I've been having a hard time recently because of XYZ, and it's very refreshing for you to meet a stranger and just speak so openly. And I think that's what the whole point of this podcast is, that you can speak openly and you can just say when you're not feeling okay. And so I do admire you for that. I hope you don't mind me. I hope I haven't thrown you in the deep end there, but I've noticed it a couple of times where you are just very open and honest, and that's why I thought you'd be a good guest.
No, so I think it is. To turn around and say, I think it's the key. We can't make that claim because everybody deals with their own mental health issues separately, and there's different triggers and stuff. Don't get me wrong, being open about it and chatting, it makes it a bit more comfortable for me, because one of the biggest things that I suffered with, or I struggled with at the very start of it, was my anxiety was through the roof. Like, I really struggled being in a social setting, being surrounded with people, and one of the things that I actually found worked for me and worked quite well whenever I just tried to get myself back out in the social setting was I went to Cafe Nero down in Crescent Link, and you can see my seat. The minute you walk in the door, it was a padded chair right at the back, so I'd sit there and my back's against the wall, so no one's around me. I put a podcast on my ears, or just music, sit there with a coffee and just people watch, get familiar with people being around you again, knowing that it doesn't feel like everything's closing in on me. That makes sense. So that was like the start of me just getting out and finding out, look, being out and open, and it's not the worst. You come across a lot more people working in Argos, even seeing it with our customers and stuff that came on. We had some customers which would come on and completely open up about stuff that they're going through. There's one that stuck with me, and this is no word of a lie. Garrett came in at this stage, I was TSM. So TSM in Argos just basically means you're a whoppet. You're treated like shite, and for very little recognition, but you do meet some good people in there. but just the stress that came from a job, it wasn't great, but there was moments like this then which completely shined on it. So a girl came in, she was returning 2 lamps, and there was another small box, can't remember exactly what it was, but she brought it up that hill, and you could see it had our Argos number on it in the top corner, so I knew they were Argos items and they weren't opened. She turned around and says that her brother actually came out and bought them. Her brother bought them a month ago, and she's only getting round to returning them now because her brother had a type of prostate cancer which was just very advanced, and it was gone in a matter of weeks. They had no time to even react with it. And she said she's only getting round to the stage now to bringing herself in they return items. And obviously going through that sort of loss, that's something I've suffered with a lot, dealing with loss, and I know how detrimental it can be to a lot of people. But in retail as well, you've got your things set in place where, right, I could tell they were our products, I could tell that they weren't opened, but all I could do for that customer was I could only give her what the current price was for that item. So even if that would have been bought for whatever that would have been back a month ago, whatever the current price was for that item was the best that I could do without a receipt. And that was like a goodwill gesture because of what we spoke about. It's not easy to come in and just open up about the loss that you've gone through, the family members or whatever. So then whenever we're going through the transaction of speaking about it, I just wanted to normalise it a bit more, so I asked, if you don't mind, what happened to your brother or what sort of person he was. So she started explaining the type of character her brother was. Sticking out of the corner of one of the boxes, we actually noticed it was the receipt. So it was the receipt that he tucked in while we were talking about him. He tucked it away so it wouldn't get lost. And whenever you took it out, then you were able to actually see that the stuff that we were refunding was at a lower value of what it was actually bought for, so we were able to turn around and give it at the full value. But we turned around and started chatting, and I'm just like, whenever you lose people, you start looking out for them wee signs, which is, I don't, greater power, this, that or the other. You just want that familiar feeling of you had with that person whenever they're around. So to be talking about your brother, and then all of a sudden this receipt came out and you're getting the full value back for it, just created a bit of a connection there. So whenever we left, I walked the girl out to the car and I says there, as a look, she teared up whenever she's speaking about it, and as all, if you ever do want to speak about it, as all, there's a coffee shop right across from us, as I'll come up anytime, I'll take my break, we'll go over and get a cup of coffee. It's nice just to speak to somebody about anything, because you've no idea how much that can just help, just getting something off your chest or opening up about something which is weighing you down. And I think that was a big eye opener, seeing that you can do that for someone else who's going through stuff. And I think that's what sort of started me being a bit more open about the stuff that I was struggling with. And the biggest one I created myself, I created a barrier myself, which was, as long as I'm taking this pill, I'm not normal. Now, no one ever said that to me, no one ever turned around and done it, but I'm like, right, why do I have to get up in the morning, and in order to go about my day I need to take this pill which is going to allow me to suddenly be this. And I think that's the weird thing. I set it up at, this pill is going to fix absolutely everything, and the minute I take it, that is it, where I'm back to the old me. And that's not the way it kind of worked. I went through 3 different changes of medication, but each of them led to the next, which sort of helped you get to the end point of where I'm at now, where I want it works. So the very first one they put me on was sertraline. Started me on 50 milligrams of sertraline, and within 6 weeks they had me up to 200 milligrams, which is the highest dosage. So it was quite a fast ramp up through that medication to get to that end point. But whenever you do take the medication, there's almost like an unspoken thing about it that a lot of people don't know. Whenever you do take it, it takes 6 weeks for this to even take effect, for you to feel the benefit of it. Like, as I say, it's not like a pain pill. You don't take it and then just everything just stops. Like, the benefit is literally, right, well, you're able to get up out of bed, go shower, go downstairs, have a cup of tea, or just speak to that friend. Like, it's massive. Like, you can't take away how you, I don't think looking at it like it's a painkiller and I've got a headache, so I have to get my headache's gone. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I love if it worked like that, but that's not the world we're in. So I stuck with that medication, which was the sertraline, and the mood balanced out a bit. But before that happened, you do take an awful dip, because you're changing the you're changing the chemical compound in your body. So your body's getting used to where it would normally release its own serotonin or whatever to try and balance out. It crashes first and then gets to the point where it just starts to go on a wee wave, so it's a more recognisable pattern. So I stuck to the sertraline for a year, and it was, I'm not going to say it's good, because it wasn't like a disco biscuit you were taking it and then hitting the floor afterwards and then like a disco party. It was nothing like that. It balanced the moods a bit more. So after it balanced the moods, I still have had a lot of trouble sleeping. And it's same again, sleep can be another thing, which is, it's detrimental to your mental health. So trying to get into a good routine where you're getting good sleep. So whenever I went down and I explained it to the doctor, saying, look, I've taken these tablets and I'm still struggling with sleep, they changed me onto medication which was called mirtazapine. I'm pretty sure it was, probably butchering the names of these things, but they're quite close. So that medication it had the same effect on my moods as the other one, where you still had your ups and downs, but you were going on about your day. However, this one specifically was targeted at, it was to help me sleep, so I would be taking this at 10 o'clock at night, and then come about 11 o'clock you start to get drowsy, you drift off, and then that's you up to about 6 in the morning, and then you're getting ready to come on to work. I stuck with it, and my sleeping did get a hell of a lot better on this medication, but the thing that I found from the tablet and working in retail and stuff specifically, so we would have been in there, we were closing up shop, you were in the 10 o'clock, but you had to wait for your drivers to get home, so it wasn't really 10 o'clock, it was closer to 11. By the time you got home at half 11, quarter to 12, if I take that medication and it's in the system, I'm supposed to be in work the next morning at 9 o'clock. There's no way that's out of my system by 9 o'clock. So if I'm driving my car and I'm heavily affected by that medication, there's times that I was choosing not to take it just because I knew I would be putting myself or others at risk on the road. But the stupidest thing from it is, by not taking it, you're putting yourself at risk anyway. Like it is a form of self-harm. Like this, if this tablet is allowing you to just go throughout your day and take the knocks as they come, I turn around just going, right, well, I'm done, I'm not taking it. And I'll show you a perfect example of what I mean by it. So I stuck with that for a year. I was sleeping much better, but I didn't like the way it left me feeling at night. Like, so if you were to phone me going, James, the wheel's gone on the car here, I haven't got a spare, can you come out and pick me up? So if I would have got that phone call at about 2 in the morning, I couldn't have jumped in my car. So then I had like a guilty feeling that if someone needed help, I couldn't really help them. So the tablet done what it was supposed to, where it started to aid with sleep. So that's whenever I spoke with the doctor and going, look, I just don't like how groggy it's leaving me or how it's affecting me the next morning. So can we possibly look at something else? And that's whenever we switched to fluoxetine. Put on 20 milligrams of that and still continued to sleep afterwards. Sleeping was pretty great. Moods, same as always, up and down, up and down, up and down. But just stuck with it. Took it for about a year and a half, and I was like, right, this is fine. And then something happened. January's is quite tough for me. Lost a grandparent, a friend with cystic fibrosis, and one to suicide, and that was all within a 10-day window just before my birthday fall. So for the last 5 years, maybe 6 years, I've buried my head whenever it comes to my birthday. I don't like dealing with it. I found it hard to celebrate me being here when these other people weren't. That was the guilt that I was sort of putting on myself. And I think that carried on, because coming up to December just passed, there's a lot of weight on January as it is, because as I say, you're dealing with the loss of a grandparent first of all, and then seeing someone pass away with cystic fibrosis, you're sitting beside them life support and they're not waking up and you say stuff to them, and that was quite difficult to deal with. And then, but you knew that was coming, so in some way you were kind of prepared for it. The suicide one you weren't prepared for. Just all of a sudden you're arranging to go have a coffee with this person, and then the next day they're not there, and you're like, what if they're going to tell me this, or could I have done this different to make sure that they're still here? And you torture yourself with that for a long time. I know I tortured myself for a long time with it. And so this year it just came into December, and for some reason I was like, I don't need my medication anymore. I was like, I'm fixed. So I took myself off it, and I didn't notice whenever I took myself off it, I was segregating myself from others and taking myself away into my own wee safety bubble and just doing that. So done that anyway, and then coming into the tough time of the year where I started to deal with a lot of loss, something at me where it was an impulse, but it was an impulse more stronger than I've ever had before. I've had suicidal thoughts. I've had thoughts of me being here is a burden on others, and why push myself into another year, which is just going to end up being the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day, just keeps repeating. But before I kind of had a great group of friends around me, I had support, kept myself busy in work, and I was taking medication which allowed me to move forward. So by me just turning around and going, right, well, I know better than what these doctors do, I'm stopping this medication, which they have now worked with me for over 5 years, telling me that this is the one that you need to be on. And then on that day, it was just like a light switch went, and yeah, I attempted to end my life. And it was a very strange, so the first thing I felt whenever I realised it didn't work was, shit, I'm still here. And that's not the response you want to have, especially whenever, like, I'm in an incredibly lucky place where I know I've got good support of friends and family around me, which have helped me through this massively, and I know not everyone's got that network. So I've, in a way, then almost right after, well, shit, this doesn't work and I'm still here, I got hit with the guilt. I got hit with the guilt of the stuff that I've been feeling for years, where I'm like, well, could I have done something if I would have reached out and had a phone call with her? Would she still be here? What could I have changed on the run up to that event, which may have made that person still be here in my life? So then the feeling that I almost put that on others, it was awful. For 2 weeks I carried it around with me, just eating up on my insides. And then whenever I was in work, I turned around and spoke to the girl and said to the girl, and she turned around and goes, but did you do that? And I said, aye. And then she turned around and goes, right, so how are you now? I said, I'm fine now at the minute. She said, great. So came in the next day, and this girl would be a charge hand in the hospital, so technically a supervisor. She's all, look, James, after what you told me yesterday, she's all, I went home last night and I couldn't sleep, thinking, right, what if I don't do anything with this? He's told me that. And to this day, I couldn't tell you why. I told her, I couldn't tell you why. I know I'm not really quite open with this thing, but this was something that I was just guarding. And I don't know if it was me trying to find a way to talk about it, or at least get it out there and try and shift the guilt. But I turned and said there, whenever I came in, and she's all, look, I had to go say to our managers, because our managers are more equipped to deal with this than I am. I just couldn't get my head around the fact if something was to happen, and you told me this and I didn't go tell anybody else. So it's the same, and the first thing I done was I apologised there for putting that on her. And she said, oh, you don't have to apologise for putting it. It's the way you feel incredibly guilty about the stuff that you've done. And that's what started the ball rolling in the workplace about going down the route of CBT. And CBT was a different type of therapy that I've had before, which I just found it was really beneficial. The understanding the destructive paths that I was going down. So that in December, me not taking the medication, that was a destructive path. It's a form of self-harm. Like if I know once I stop taking this that I'm going to start to have more downers, more bad days than good days. And the crazy thing of it all is, I was petrified of clowns. Right, that was my biggest fear. Even working in McDonald's, I nearly assaulted Ronald whenever he came in. I couldn't get away from him. Maria had to come and take me away. So that was my biggest fear, clowns. See, the last 3 to 4 years, see you being alone in a room, there's nothing more terrifying than that. You know every single weak point to attack. You know everybody that I let this person down today, or I didn't do this, and it became, the night just constantly became that. But it got to a point in January where it wasn't just night anymore. I was carrying that through until the day, so there was like no respite from it. And that's whenever I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And I acted on impulse. My first response was, shit, that didn't work. And then now I am where I am, continuing to move forward with being open, talking to the GP, talking to the mental health practitioner, and trying the different types of medications and therapies, because this is the thing, it isn't one pill fits all. So it isn't I'm just going to give you this tablet now and that's you on your way. In 3 weeks' time you'll be on the dance floor again, you'll be like a young Patrick Swayze. It doesn't work like that. There is past traumas and stuff that you don't deal with, and you necessarily don't know about them. You feel you're protecting yourself just by going, right, I've put that in a box and I've put it back there. I don't have to worry about it, it's behind me now. You don't think about it at all. Just the more and more stuff you start trucking behind you, you don't realise until one day you need to turn around and everything that you didn't deal with, you put there, and it just looks like a mountain that you can't summit. And that is what that was the downfall. That was the moment where I was just like, I'm done, I'm not fighting this anymore. And that's when I went downhill. I was trying to come back from that, or at least learn the best way of dealing with it. And where I say I'm incredibly lucky about some of the friends and family I have. One of my friends is a GP and the other is a pharmacist, so they did break down what I was going to go through, and my friend, which is the GP, says to me, look, I do believe you're going to benefit from medication, but there's a huge side that counselling can help you address. There's stuff that you may not know, like half that stuff that I chucked behind me and I didn't know I was chucking behind me. It was just, you don't know you're doing it until all of a sudden it's there, and then it just becomes too much and you can't address it. So the first thing she said to me is, look, get the medication, get on board with it, stick with it, be honest about how it's making you feel, and try the different types of therapy and see what you get from it. That gave me a foot up normally. I think I'm not sure if a lot of people sort of gets that, look, you are going to get the medication side of it, but you should also look into the therapy side, because it is going to allow you to see what can trigger you or what might push a button and put you back in take you back to the 3 stages. So I find that beneficial, having her as a friend where she was able to do that. And then from just the pharmacist around the side of it, no one does explain that whenever you take the medication, that it's not an instant, you take this and that's you're better tomorrow. It is unfortunately up to 6 weeks before you do feel a difference in it, and you will feel a hell of a lot worse before you feel better. But it is known, it's at least known that that's coming. So if you know in 2 weeks' time, look, I'm going to be hit with something which is just going to feel a lot heavier, or my feet's just going to feel heavier, I'm not going to want to move as much, but at least you know that is coming, so you know it's part of it, and you're looking for the next stage then to get you through it. As if you're unaware of this and you're taking this tablet and you're thinking, right, this tablet is going to be the thing which fixes everything for me, and you're taking it, and then 2 weeks from then you get hit with just this massive downfall, or whatever you want to call it. It could be enough to just put anyone off it then, and I'm a huge advocate for the medication side of it as well, because you'll have a lot of people which will turn around and say, oh, you take your medication, that's you. It's completely, you're numbing everything else. I don't know if I've ever felt like that with mines. All mines allowed me to do was continue going throughout the day, get up out of the bed, go get showered, brush your teeth, go to work, not crack up with customers. It was a tough one.
Yeah, I can vouch for that one.
Yeah, I just think it was more understanding the medication side of it a bit more as well, because you're in your own rights to, if you're going to be put on a medication, you're told you're being put on this medication for a specific reason, to look into that medication and see why. As I said there, I dealt with 3 different types of medications. Sertraline was I think it's a standard antidepressant, anti-anxiety med, and it's one of the first ones that a lot of people is given. So it was just understanding what that could do, and you may put on weight, and you may do this, that and the other. And then there was another one which was, is this podcast PG? No.
No.
So there was one which was, is it the fluoxetine one? And they're like, look, if you take this fluoxetine one, there's a chance that your libido's going to drop. And I'm like, right, well, I can take the tablet and be here, or I can not take the tablet, have a heart on, and not be die the next day. So I was trying to get a balance of that.
Happy medium.
Now, touch wood, I've not been affected by it, so I think everything's still working fine. But you see a lot of the side effects on the back, and a lot of it is worrying, where you're like, well, I'm trying to deal with this mental health issue, but on top of that now, if I take this tablet, I'm going to gain weight, which is massive for a lot of people. A lot of people struggle with how they look, and they're never happy with how they are, or what you see in the mirror is never what someone else sees, so you're constantly nitpicking at that. Or you may have a libido issue. So it's stuff where you're like, right, well, I'm taking this tablet to help one thing, but if it's helping this and making that worse, is that just creating another issue? So I think just looking under the medication and finding out how it worked for others and what it's done for others gives you a bit of hindsight into what you're actually taking and what it's going to do for you. So then you can realise that, right, well, if I do this and I go hand in hand with the therapy, at least the therapy is doing A, B, or C. Well, at least that's how I think it worked for me. That's the way it felt like it.
Well, it seems that different people are going to be affected differently, and like therapy might not work for some people, and drugs might, or drugs don't work for some people and therapy does, or they both go hand in hand, or it just obviously, like, that's why I want to talk to as many people as I can, because everyone is completely different and sees things completely different, and their triggers are different, and how they feel better is different. But would you say that, so you were saying that the drugs come with the positives and the negatives, do you think there was any negatives with the counselling?
Yeah, so this is, I shouldn't really pick at this because it's the healthcare system. So when you do what most people do whenever you suffer from mental health, you make an attempt on your life, or you do this, that and the other, the first thing they do, or protocol they do, is they put you onto some kind of suicide prevention program. So the suicide prevention programs they do what they say in the tin. They're there to try and work out why you've done what you've done. But for someone if you've never had counsel and stuff before, and I've come out in a room and I've now sat down, you've turned around and you're like, well, I'm Brad and I am here to help you through this scenario. My first 2 sessions, I didn't want to speak to the person. I had no idea who they were or what they wanted to do. You're given 6 sessions. Two of my sessions was almost sheer silence, just trying to work out what this person is, and then at the end of it, are they here to help me or address what was going on? And the reason why the right type of therapy matters is, so the suicide prevention one, it wasn't that it was the wrong counselling for me. I've done it and I feel that it did help. However, it was an incredibly draining process. Like, whenever I would finish that counselling session, I would literally get in my car and drive to the coast somewhere, Shreve, sit by the beach, and I would sit there for 5 to 6 hours and just try and absorb what we were talking about or trying to deal with, because it was my first time ever going down the counselling route. So we done that, and it just felt like, because it was such a short window and it was only the 6 weeks, and then they needed to try and get the nitty-gritty of it all, coming on to the last few weeks, it's just like, right, so if you imagine your entire history of everything you've been put through, childhood and everything else, is like a filing cabinet. All the stuff that you don't want to address, all the stuff that you don't want to talk about, you've put right to the back of that filing cabinet. So this is the thing about how whenever you go into therapy or counselling, the reason that you really need to gel with that counsellor or get on one is because they need to get to know you. They need to work through the front of this file first. That's you building your trust with them, to tickle them to that part at the back that you didn't want to talk about or you didn't want to open up about. So they have 6 sessions. 2 of them I sat there quiet, where I didn't want to give anything. It just felt like the end of it was what's here at the back. So you're jumping right into the stuff that necessarily
could take you weeks or months to get to, naturally.
Yeah, so even, as I say, the more of that side of it was a suicide prevention therapy. So getting into the stuff that we were then talking about, it didn't feel like it was in the realms of what that therapy was there for. That therapy was there to, right, whenever you feel this way, what should you do? There should be a set, from the minute that comes on, there should be a set thing you do, or it's like a protocol you follow for anybody. And this is the toughest thing, which is something that for ages I turn around, if I would have picked the phone up and I would have phoned her, she'd still be here, and that's something that you've carried for a long time. But that is, it's an unknown, but it's also 95% wrong. Like, what could I have done if her mother, her child, there wasn't enough to keep her here on this earth? Realistically, what is going and getting a cup of coffee with me going to do? So it was like the weird place you sort of got yourself in, where you're like, right, so what can you do to help someone, which is sort of going down that route? And none of us is trained professionals. A lot of us, we have all our own experiences, and what I've found out from doing the counselling and stuff is everybody which is in that position of counselling to help you is someone which has gone through some past trauma of their own and want to now help people. So the three stages is always, right, well, if I'm not safe, what am I going to do? Take yourself to A&E. Take yourself to A&E and tell them you don't feel right, that you're at risk. You're not going to go anywhere, you're going to sit there for 8 hours, but you're there and you're safe. That's where they're keeping an eye on you. Pick up a phone. Samaritans 24/7. 24/7, 365 days of the year, someone's on the line that phone. Someone you're never going to meet, someone you're never going to see, so you can tell them absolutely anything you want, and they're there just to listen. And then the next step is you need to talk to a GP. You need to go to the doctors and tell them the stuff you're going through. They're the 3 steps you give to anybody which is suffering with that. It mightn't save them, but going for a cup of coffee isn't going to do anything. At least if you give them 3 steps, something there may help, which may get you into the right places. And it was the suicide prevention therapy, which I felt that person was maybe a wee bit out of their depth. And then up in Belfast, I got put on the other one, which was Heart Project, and it was a fella called Jim. He was fantastic, because a lot of my issues that I carried around with me then was I tried to deal with a lot of other people's problems and not cared about my own. So one of the best pieces of advice he gave me, and I love telling it to other people, is whenever you get up in the morning, set 2 bins out in front of you. And on one bin is everything you can control, and then on the other bin is everything you can't. And just be brutally honest with yourself. Ask yourself this question, right? So this thing that's annoying me, I was supposed to go out and meet so-and-so for a cup of hours, and that didn't do it. Right, well, why didn't you do it? Didn't do it because the wheel on the car broke. Right, well, what could you have done to control that? Nothing. So it goes in that bin. You don't sit and stress about it anymore. Or 2 friends have been falling out and they're going down, it looks like they're going down the route of divorce. What can you do about that? No. It's not your issue to be worrying about. By all means, be there whenever he picks up the phone, once they chat or this, that and other. But it's not an issue that you need to be carrying yourself. And I found myself that I was carrying a lot of problems which weren't my own, which then were making my own 10 times worse whenever it came to actually dealing with them. So it was a nice technique that I got from that counselling, and with Jim it just felt more of a natural foundation to start off from, building up that trust and then talking about the stuff that we were able to talk about. We just didn't go right to it. At the end it felt like we gradually got to it, which made it a lot easier to open up and know that you were safe after speaking about it and what you were doing next, and if you didn't feel safe, what to do. So that Heart Project, that helped a lot. And then the last one I've done, which has been the biggest one, where a lot of people do talk about it, and that is the CBT. That has been, I don't want to say game changing, because the best way she described it, and I'll describe one of the scenarios she wrote on the wall for me, and I couldn't get my head around it until she done it this way. And I think it's specifically, so I've got dyslexia, so I visualise stuff a lot better. So whenever something is put up on a board and then you're looking at it and you're going, right, well, this is it visually, you can kind of see it a bit better then. So what she done was she drew 4 umbrellas on the board. One was a big massive golf umbrella, and then the other 3 was smaller umbrellas. So on these smaller umbrellas, first one you had was vulnerable child. So that's whenever you feel vulnerable, you go into a state where you then start to close off. So you have vulnerable here. The one beside that was isolate and protect. So whenever I start to feel vulnerable, I isolate myself, protect myself, cut everybody off. Now there's times that I go weeks or months where you won't hear a thing from me, because I'm just like, no, I'm doing my own thing, and I isolate myself, and this is me protecting myself. So again, that's another very destructive behaviour. And then the bottom one was anger. So they were free. Now, all these emotions they're emotions that you will go through from day to day. Like, you lose your job, you're going to feel vulnerable. There's a reason for that. You're tying that emotion to that. So the biggest umbrella was the golf umbrella at the end, and that was the one which was healthy adult. And the idea was you wanted to get all these umbrellas together under the healthy adult and realise that each emotion is happening for a reason, and why is that reason, and is that justified for it to continue on that way? And if it is, then it makes sense. But if not, so if I'm still sitting here and I'm feeling guilty because I said we were going to go do something and then we didn't do it, like, I shouldn't be still tearing myself up about it. You need to be turning around going, look, well, you didn't do it this time, but you can try it next time. Don't be holding on to it, or don't be beating yourself up over the smallest things. So it is like you are heading down a road of self-destruction now, and that's the way I like to look at it, is if I'm heading down that road of self-destruction, and because I say I like to visualize things a lot better, the way I look at it is them four cornerstones, them umbrellas or cornerstones I like to call them, and she's put up. I want to stay under the healthy adult as much as I can. So what I need to do is, whenever I'm heading towards the vulnerable state, or protect and isolate, or the anger, spot it before I head there and work out while I'm heading there. And then, is there anything I can do to change or deviate that path? So I like to look at it, or how I like to picture it. This is the way I told her I work it out. So I'm heading down the road, something happened, and it has really fucked me off to a point that I know I'm close to just losing the plot. The day's going to be a spiral. It's a write-off. I'm going to go home to my bed and forget all about it. So I can automatically see there that I'm heading down the anger route. So I'm looking at the road ahead, and you can see the road sign. Derry, 60 miles away. Coleraine, 30. Anger, 2. So do you keep going towards the anger, or do you turn around and go, right, well, if I go this way instead, I'm bypassing it, and it allows you to address what was making you feel that way first of all, and then validate it. Because if your go-to emotion was anger, there was something there which caused it. So what did cause it? Right, this is why you felt that way. You've justified it, dealt with it, and then you've moved on from it. Where I would have held on to a lot of that sort of anger, or my go-to was, I'm going to isolate myself. I'll cut myself off from everybody and just I'll do me. If no one's inside my bubble, no one can hurt me. No one can upset me. And the hurt one, that would be a big one, where I sort of thinking, right, well, if I isolate myself from people, I'm not letting anyone get close, and if I don't let anyone get close, no one can take advantage of you the way only someone that you're supposed to love can take advantage of you. It was a weird period where isolation became like my coping mechanism, but at the same time it didn't really help me cope with anything. It dragged out a big period. I spent a big portion of my 30s refusing to accept the people that weren't here anymore, and burying my head whenever it came to January, because I didn't want to deal with what happened. And that was just a huge portion of the 30s, where it was, this is what it is. So I just isolated myself. I'm like, I'm not going to, if I don't let anyone get close to me again, I don't have to worry about losing that person, or that person being abusive when you get back home. Or it was a weird thing where I felt like I was protecting myself, but in the grand scheme of it, looking back, it was probably making myself worse, because you're cutting yourself off from, whenever you go out to see friends, you go out for a coffee, you go out for a drink, you go to do whatever, you're releasing them good endorphins whenever you're out there. Like, it's your own natural, that's your body's natural way of letting you feel that you're okay. So whenever you go down the isolation route, you don't do any of that anymore, so you're not getting any of them small releases where it gives you hope for the next day, and that would be the biggest thing, where it's a turn around now and you are going to have shit days. It's not going to be, my go-to was, if I have 4 good days in a week, I can deem that a good week. Even a person which doesn't suffer from mental health doesn't have 4 good days in a week. So it was an unrealistic goal in the first place, to turn around and go, right, well, I need to have 4 good days. Without these 4 good days, I'm not fixed. And that's the way I looked at it, where, right, well, I'm broken. And as long as I'm doing this, I'm not fixed. And we changed, or pivoted to a point of, right, well, this, going day to day, this day, this is what was good, and this is what was bad. Everyone has a smartphone in their pocket with a calendar. You can literally take your calendar out and write down whenever something good happened. Family member came over and you just had a chat, popped out, and could have been anything. Just enjoyed something on a TV show, or just jot down anything at all, anything which give you a positive emotion. Just jot it down. Because if you sit there and you just fill this calendar with everything which give you a negative one, then that's all it's going to be. You're only going to look back at it being, well, this whole month was shit. Might have been shit, but what about that time when you just popped out for dinner, or the ones from Belfast came when you visit, or if you're not looking for the wee small glimmers of just hope, that's what you hold on to. If you're only focusing on the dark side of it, that is what destroys people. So you can easily allow that to run away.
Something you said a lot is that you seem to take a lot of people's emotions and take a guilt whenever you shouldn't, really.
Yeah.
Like you said about your friend that killed themselves, and you felt guilt for that, but then also something as trivial as, I'm going to take these tablets and now I'm going to be conked out, and what if someone has a flat tire at 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't do anything?
Yeah.
For someone that feels so guilty and feels so strongly about other people's emotions, whenever you tried to end your own life, was that not going through your head about other people's emotions, or was it just that you were so, because you're obviously off the tablets, you just completely lost the run of yourself? Or
so for the past, has it been 5 years? For the past, it's always been right. Well, I've been given this hand because I can do it. I'll take what sort of comes my way, and there was a lot of big knocks. So there was a lot of big knocks where you're taking and you're questioning, right? Am I doing the right thing by still being here? And that's only normal with mental health. Like if you have a cold, you're going to cough, you're going to sneeze. Mental health. If you have mental health difficulties, you are going to get them times where you start thinking, I'm better off not being here. And you need to take a second and realise who's relying on you. So whenever I done what I done, I think it just got to a point where I was tired of fighting myself. As I said, at night time you lay there at night and you're nitpicking. That came from night and the day, so it was non-stop ridiculing yourself over the stupidest things. And I just wanted that to stop. I just wanted that to end. And the only way I could see of making that stop was a permanent solution to what could be a short-term problem with the right help. Permanent
solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah. So that was the biggest eye-opener on that one, where it was.
Do you regret doing it?
Yeah, whenever I turn around now and look at the people which are close to me and around me and rely on you being about, you don't know the impact you have on others. You might feel insignificant. You might feel like the world's better off without you here. It's not like there's people in your life which that absolutely destroys. So it takes them a long time to get over. This one specifically we were talking about, where I carried guilt for her passing, and I thought there's something that I could have done. It took me 3 years to realise if her own child wasn't enough to keep her on this earth, realistically, what was I going to do to change that outcome? But it's a part of, like, whenever you deal with loss, you're hit with everything. You're hit with, there's grief, there's guilt, you're hit with a whole lot, and it comes in different stages, and it's about just trying to get yourself through them stages and not getting locked down. With me, I struggled with the guilt side of it a lot, where I felt like I could have done something to change the outcome of it, and that took a while. So did they realise, and I think it was more so when I went through it myself as well, that on that day no one could have stopped me doing what I done. Picking up the phone couldn't have stopped it from happening. It was like a moment of weakness. It looked like the only fix, and it looked like I could finally stop dealing with what I'd been dealing with. So I'd say it's a moment of weakness, because what I've been dealing with for 5 years, what I've been putting up with for all this time, has felt so much harder than this, and I just looked at this window as if this is my time. I don't have to deal with this anymore. I don't have to care about the people left behind me. All I'm worrying about is I'm stopping this relentless assault on myself. And I think that's what mental health is with a lot of people. It is, you're kicking the shit out of yourself constantly. There's no let up from it. And I just got to a point where taking myself off the medication wasn't a right call, because again, I'm not a medical professional. They sat down and worked out that I needed to be on this, and I needed to be on this for specific reasons. So by taking myself off that, first of all, that's an accident waiting to happen. And then I just threw more and more uncertainty on the where I was telling myself I don't need to be on this medication and I'm not normal as long as I'm on it. Yet I took myself off it, and then taking myself off it, I'd done what I'd done. Proves that for the last 5 years I put up with shit and got myself through what I would deem some of the most difficult times. Losing Emma was a real tough one. That was one that I've only addressed recently. Took her ashes to the Giant's Causeway and stuff. That was hard to deal with. For someone which was always there, you could pick the phone up there and you could speak about whatever you want, and you can get off that phone afterwards and feel like you weren't judged or you're no different from anyone else. Whenever she passed and I lost that, I felt like I lost my vent. They let it all out and then be reassured that, no, this is life, but this is normal. What you're going through is normal. Well, a lot of other people are going through it. So dealing with her loss was a real tough one, and I think that's what led to me doing what I've done as well, because her mum sent over her belongings and a wee vial of some of her ashes, because she wanted her, she said that the happiest she's ever seen her was whenever she was in Ireland here, which is, it's great knowing that you've given that memory to a mother which has lost her only child, knowing that this is where she's found some sort of happiness. But at the same time, I was in a very dark place and struggled accepting the fact that she wasn't here anymore. And now, instead of picking up a phone and being able to chat there, it was this wee vial which sat in a cupboard, and I would go look through the box. Whenever I looked through the box, and I would just feel awful. So for the longest time, I just didn't address it. I kept it in a box, I kept it in the cupboard, and I was like, I won't think about it, I won't deal with it. And then I'd go to it a few months later, go in the box, and then see him again, come out and be in that awful dip. So the taking the ashes to the Causeway, I felt like I was finally in the right place to. It was the first place we went whenever she was here, and it was the first place we took her parents there whenever they came over. So even her mum turned around and says it was always a special place for her. And when me saying it's visual things that work best with me. We went to the Causeway. I went down onto the coast, sat on the rocks right beside the water, put some lashes in my hand, held my hand under the water and waited for one of the crashing waves to come. And then whenever I opened my hand, the water took lashes away from my hand. And that's not me letting go of her, but it's me letting go of a hold that had over me. Like, I can still look back and think of all the fun times that we've had together and celebrate the life that she had, instead of looking back at her not being here and then me questioning why I'm still here or this, that, or other. I think it carried a lot of weight, that box, and not addressing it and leaving it there was damaging for me to be going on it every couple of months and digging up the past and then leaving myself feeling worse and coming away from it. So taking it to the Causeway and doing that thing where you're holding on to it and opening it and you're like, right, well, I've dealt with this now and I've let her go, but you've not let her go. All them things is still there. You still remember all the good times. You remember all the laughs and stuff you had together. Your pictures you can still go look at. I think that was one of the main ones which was causing me a lot of my own depression and anxiety, knowing that she wasn't here anymore. I couldn't just pick a phone call up and be reassured that I'm normal. So dealing with that and moving forward and going, right, well, this is how it is. And it's the majority of me dealing with my depression has come from loss. It's been year after year, I think 4 or 5 significant losses But I got so bogged down with the fact that they're not here, I forgot to celebrate the life that they did have while they were here. But then again, I don't know if that's just that weird Catholic guilt that gets chucked on you from whenever you go to mass and stuff, and being like, oh, well, Jesus done this for you and that and the other. And
But then, whenever you said, like the reason I asked, do you regret it? And the reason I asked about it was, a reason I asked it, sorry, about you caring deeply and feeling guilty and this kind of thing. One of the first things you said was, no one could have done anything to stop me doing what I done that day. So can you not put yourself in their shoes and think, you said you spent years thinking, can I not pick up the phone, and I could have stopped it, but you know yourself, you've been in that mind frame, and you just told me no one could have done anything different to make me stop. So can you not see that from her point of view now, or their point of view now, and think I couldn't have done anything?
Yes.
And understand
so
that?
That's what a lot of this has been, sort of coming to grasps with the loss of each person, because each person had a slightly different, something else happened to them for them being gone. There was two that you sort of carried that. And I think a part of that is suicide. So with my granddad, when he passed away with COVID, and it was near the end of it, and it was in the January window where I already lost two people. But a part of me that my granddad was a very religious man. My nanny passed away a few years before it, and that man lived for her. Everything he done was for her. You seen it whenever he come up, he'd be up, right, making a wee cup of tea and bringing out her pills and stuff. So in a way, I sort of seen whenever she was on her deathbed and she went through this for a year. We're coming down from Belfast, going to visit her, and it was just constantly you're seeing her where she lost more weight again, and it was just each time you're seeing her, it was just a shock every time you're coming on. It was such a big change. But it was someone which was really religious, laying in bed with her rosary beads, so I could see what religion sort of give them hope. So even holding on to that whenever they did pass, that's them back together again, that gave me a bit of
closure.
Yeah, and peace thinking about that one. Now the only problem with the suicides is it came out of nowhere. There was no time to prep for that, or there was no time to at least justify that, right, well, now my nanny's gone and my granddad's going down the same route, but they're back together. With suicide, you don't get that grace. It is literally, you have a phone call or a text message, you turn around, you look at your phone, and then that's it, everything's changed. So it's coming to the understanding that one just comes from nowhere and just completely blindsides you. And it is that thing where I don't think there's anything, if someone is in that mindset but they don't want to be here, you can't stop that from happening. Like we're all just human beings. Like we're not trained to deal with that. Now there is people which can help, and it's about getting them that help whenever you spot it. The biggest problem we have, or the biggest problem we still have, is a lot of people chooses not to talk about it or not to go seek help. It's just like, I can't take it anymore, so this is the only out, and you're away. And by the time the damage is done from that, there's no coming back.
Do you still think there is a stigma around it all?
100%. Even if you look at every couple of weeks, someone's gone from a bridge, or just they didn't want to talk about it, and you're putting up this big front that I'm okay. So or I need to be okay. That's another thing. No one needs to be okay. There's a time and place for everything. You're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be happy. There's no set right or wrong. There's not you were born this way, so that means now you have to do this, and that is it. It's like a sort of macho thing that was pushed on a lot of people, where you're like, right, well, suck it up. That term alone, suck it up. That's fuel that fire. Like, you've turned around down someone where they're possibly opening up to you and saying, look, I feel a wee bit, something's not right here. And your response could be, suck it up, you're right, why not just take a bit of time and try and find out exactly what is causing the issue. And then, as I say, follow 3 simple steps. Right, over you're not safe, go to the hospital. That alone is going to trigger the GP contact at least. But that other one, where if you feel like you've got no one to talk to, the Samaritan one they're always there. It's free to phone from your mobile. You can get them day or night, anytime, and it's just someone to listen.
Have you phoned them yourself?
I've used them 3 times.
And have you felt like they really helped?
Whenever you're dealing with stuff, it feels like you're a burden. But I felt that if I turn around to speak to any of my friends, and none of them ever said this again, this is something that I put in my own head, me opening up to them is causing them issues. So that's so, right, well, why would I only put them through that if I'd only deal with it myself? So by picking up the phone and just phoning someone that you don't know, someone on the other end that you're never going to see again, you're never going to come across, but they're at least trained to help you understand why you're feeling the way you are, and then give you a bit of guidance from it. That's what you need to take away from it. Like, it is just could be a bad day, everything piling up, and then just snap. Whenever you break, everything that you've buried just unleashes, and it's overwhelming. But they know that there is that weird, call it a lifeline, but that's what it is. These people are trained to be able to talk you through exactly what you're dealing with at the minute, whenever you pick it up. And it's not that your friends and stuff isn't. They will always be there for you. And a lot of them do say, look, if you need anything at all, pick it up and we'll chat. It's fantastic if you have that. Not everyone does. But that phone call, everyone could do that. So as you can phone that from, they're very hard to come across now, from phone boxes in the street. But everyone there enough has a mobile and it's free phone. So you pick it up and you just sit and chat. They're there just to listen. I think it's a life or death moment, like.
And we always end every podcast asking if you could give anyone going through similar circumstances a bit of advice that makes you feel better. What would you tell them? Anything that improves your mental health, or if you feel like you're struggling, something that you feel like is a positive?
So I've recently come across an artist. You'll find him on YouTube releasing all his own music. Someone which has suffered with their own mental health, autoimmune disease, psychosis, losing friends to suicide. He touches on a lot of topics that a lot of people don't touch on, and the music side of it itself it's quite heavy. At the end of it, there is monologues which just are groundbreaking, that just makes you look at stuff in a different light. But even at that, the thing which you see from this the biggest eye-opener from it all is you go on YouTube and you click on the comment section and you scroll down and look to see how many other people was feeling that way, and this song resonated with them, or you seen that someone else has dealt with this and they're now out the other side. There's no time frame dealing with what we deal with. You could be dealing with it your whole life, but it gets easier, it gets better. Where I was in January to where I am now is like it's white and black. So and they see that transition come in such a small period is a lot of people spotting it, where I didn't think I would ever get there. So it is about just staying in the fight. It is easy to turn around and be like, look, I'm done. I can't keep moving forward. Just one step. Just always take that one step. Forget about it being a marathon or whatever, just the next step. If you're ever going to focus on anything else, right, well, I want to do this, so what does the next step look like? Just take the next step, and then the next step after that.
Okay. Thank you very much for chatting with me today.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Well, I think it was a very nice chat and was needed for all the people that go through similar things.
A big part of it is waffling. You go back and you listen through it, and a lot of it is waffling, but there is certain points of the waffling, where you don't know how many people is going to sit down and listen to this. You don't know how many people it's going to reach. Even if there's only 10 people listens to it, but it's done something for that one person. It's worth it for that alone. So it is, and that is, if I can take the stuff that I've gone through and learn from it, and at least help someone else, there's no better thing on this earth to be doing than one that you've helped someone else in a way that you've been to that dark side and know that there's a way back out of it. So as I say, if one person resonates with it, and I feel like it's worthwhile. It's easy to have the conversation then if it's helping someone, or at least giving them guidance.
Reaching and getting their help,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much.
It's been a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Anyone negatively affected by this week's episode, there are a number of links in the bio to help. That's all from me. I will see you next week on That's Mental Mate.